And thus, the Breaker, New Waves, comes to an end. This is the finale, the final chapter of the Breaker. It's sad. It's very sad because I'm gonna miss the series. I really am. I really, really am. It's gonna be weird next week when Thursday comes rolling around, waiting for that chapter. There isn't gonna be any, probably for a year or two, because the mangaka is making a new series. So this is it. This is the final video of The Breaker. Hopefully I'm not the only one that's kind of sad about this, or kind of empty, because to see how that cliffhanger was done makes me sad. It really does, because Shiho, and, you know, the different things going on in this chapter. So to see how this was ended, part 2, I'm sad. I'm very sad, because I have been with this series for a short while. I've been with it since September, October, November, somewhere around in there. I've been reviewing this series, and it may not seem like it's a long time, but to me it is, because when I review a series weekly, week after week after week, I mean, for months, it becomes routine. It's like part of your everyday life, and then to see how it's just gone, it's done, it's over, it's sad. And I don't even want to begin to imagine how avid fans have been with this series for years feel about this finale, how this is over. Like, this is the finale of The Breaker Part 2 for like a year or two. So I don't even want to begin to imagine how some feel about this. And my god, I will say though, even if, let's say, we never got another chapter, let's say we never did, which I hope we get another chapter very soon, but let's say we never got another chapter. Personally, I'm still happy I read this series. I'm so happy I sat down and read The Breaker. I really am. I'm so happy I really took the time to binge read this great series. It was a great way to introduce me to Korean manga. Without this series, I probably would never have started Manhwa or Tower of God earlier this week, or other different series I've been experimenting with recently. To see how The Breaker was my introduction to Korean manga, it makes me happy, because I'm glad this is one of my first series to really start. It was a great series, great quality, great artwork, great consistent chapters. Even though some of the chapters ended on a trollish cliffhanger majority of the time, it was still a great read. I enjoyed coming back week after week reading The Breaker. And to see now that I can't do that next week, like next week when it rolls around, I can't review a new chapter of The Breaker, it makes me sad. It really does, because this is the final video. But this, unless, you know, new news announcement comes out like in a couple months from now, but this is the final video for a good while on The Breaker. But let's not be sad here, because let's think about this. Without The Breaker, I probably would not have started new series like, you know, Tower of God recently. And, you know, if it wasn't for The Breaker, I would not have probably been introduced to Korean manga for a very long time. Like, if it wasn't for a majority of you Chibits pushing this series for a while when I first, you know, was getting into different types of manga, looking and experimenting, if it wasn't for you Chibits pushing this series, I would have started it. I wouldn't have, for a very long time, probably. It would probably been like when it's over until I started. So to see now, after sitting down, reviewing this, and, you know, reading this, it was such a fun ride. And part 2 is no exception. This part 2, New Waves, has been very phenomenal in different aspects, and some can say it's very slow when it comes to the pacing, but it has been very enjoyable from start to finish. And so with this video, I kind of want to do a review on part 2 instead of just the last chapter. I kind of want to give my final impressions of the series, the final impressions of the epilogue in part 2, since this is my final video for a good while. So I think this is a good time to really talk about the series. So with this, you know, finale, obviously it's set up for part 3. I mean, you have Shiho wakes up out of her coma, and that was massive setup right there. That final panel, what the fuck, that trollish cliffhanger, as always, standard Breaker style. But it's very ironic how the ending of part 1, Shiho goes into a coma, and then the end of part 2, she wakes up from a coma. I wonder what's going to happen with, the finale, the final part 3. I wonder if there's going to be something that's related to, like, how part 1 and part 2 ended. But overall, though, to see how this was done, especially when it came to part 2 with these endings, and then, the little princess of the Sunwo clan, of how she ripped that poor doctor dude that was experimenting. Oh my god, that poor guy got fucking wrecked. It's sad. It's sad because so much left open right here, and we won't get answers for years probably, because like I said, the mangaka is writing a new series, and I just hope I can find something that can replace and tide me over until it comes back, because this series is going to leave me a hole, because I had so much fun, and to see how it's over, it's going to leave me empty. Like, I feel empty right now, knowing that next week, none. Of course, there's other stuff out there. I mean, you gotta think about it, okay? This is my gateway into Manhwa. And of course, I haven't read everything out there, and of course, there's probably better things in the breaker. I'm not gonna say there isn't. But I just hope I can discover them real soon to tide me over until this comes back. I really do. I really, really do. Now, being real here, with part 2, it had so much progression and meaning. It really did when it came to a lot of things. Like, this part 2 of The Breaker, what it really stood for, if you think about it, was growing up, standing on your own in the next generation. New waves, for instance. And that's what part 2 stood for. The new generation of martial artists, these new masters that are young, coming in and changing the martial arts world. That's what's happening in part 2. And that's kind of how it ends. These newbies are coming in, and now they're taking over the new spots that the elders have been rotting away for years. And that's what happens, and I like that. The starting title of part 2 has been very obvious since the beginning, New Waves. New Wave stands for young people, or, new potential, or, stuff like that. It's something very new. And to see how that was done, the title didn't lie. We had that progression throughout the entirety of part 2. Like, Chiwon, how he progressed as a main character. He turned from a spineless, sniveling little coward that was a little bitch, no offense, a little bitch in part 1, to what he is now at the end of part 2. Like, that stands on his own. He's a really good leader of the Sunwo clan. He's just a very good character now after seeing what he has went through majority of The Breaker. And to see now, after that, how he is now, it makes me very proud of him as a character, to see what he's progressed into throughout part 2. And I bet majority of long-term readers have been, reading the series for a long time, are probably very happy to see how he has progressed into what he is now. I'm very satisfied, I really am. With the conclusion of part 2, it kind of set out and progressed, Shiwon as a character. And with part 3, it kind of lets us know that shit is going to be going down. Like, there's going to be a lot of fights, battles, new masters coming in, taking the spot of old elders. I mean, next generation. That's kind of what The Breaker Part 3 is going to be about. I wonder what the title is going to be. I really do. Because, I mean, you have The Breaker New Waves, and I wonder if the next Breaker is going to be, like, Breaker All-Out War or something. Because it is. I mean, Kaiser, he's building up an army. He's building his own troops up, building up these different potential war potentials for he can take down certain people. I mean, we have all this build up in part 2. That's kind of what part 2 and part 1 has been. It's been build up to the finale, the final battle of the series for the ending conclusion of part 3. And am I satisfied? That's the question. Like, am I personally satisfied as a reader of The Breaker? Am I satisfied with this conclusion of part 2? I do know it has been confirmed, and all of us do know that there is a part 3, so this is not, in fact, the finale, but am I satisfied with part 2? Yeah, I really am. I'm really satisfied. It set out what it needed to do, and, some have argued, like I've said before, that this part 2 has been slow. It is slow compared to how part 1 was, because part 1 was a monthly series that had a lot of pages to it, and with part 2 it became a weekly series that had, lack of pages sometimes, but it was kind of slow to some. And so, even though it was slowed sometimes, along with, certain issues when it came to the pacing, or how chapters ended on horrible fucking cliffhangers that bitch slapped you so hard, it was still a very, very fun read, and I would not take those times back at all. I would reread this series right now. I would. Like, I would start it right now. If I never read this series and I know what I know now, like, could be a good read, I would definitely read it. I definitely would, because I appreciate the writing that was put into this series, along with how the characters were done. Very interesting characters, great artwork that even competes with Shonen Jump's greatest artist. It really does, in my personal opinion. So yeah, I mean, overall, The Breaker, been a very, very fun ride. Tell me your thoughts. I mean, how do you feel about this conclusion? This conclusion of The Breaker. Did you enjoy part 2? And did you start this series for years now? Like, how long time readers are you? Like, I mean, Chibi, let me know. Like, how long have you been reading The Breaker? Let me know. I mean, have you been reading for a couple months? Have you been reading it as long as I have since I've been reviewing it? Or have you been reading this series for, God, years now, and then it comes to an end like this? I mean, how do you feel? Let me know. Y'all have a wonderful day or night, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.